There are two main rules. Number one, stay home and upload it here to YouTube. The speed limit along this road is just 45 miles per hour. This envelope arrived in my mailbox. We're also finding traffic cones, and that's probably something that they need to have on this stretch of Front Street. There's more than 300 separate ballots. They have to have a permit, but recently the city has put the permit process on ice. The winds have died down somewhat. Tonight's forum will help remind people that they still have access. We are coming to you live from what I would like to call the drop zone. Absolutely packed with people. It's hot chocolate weather. I like it.
Hot chocolate? It's
Yeah.
not that cold.
It is for me. Although I don't think they're really sure about that. That's like the 8th time. But it does take a lot more than just this salt to keep the roads safe. This is what you expect to hear when someone breaks into a car. But really, it sounds more like this.
Criminals now are looking for the easy way in, easy way out.
Wilmington Police Lieutenant O.M. Blanton says in June, car break-ins in his district skyrocketed 40% over last year. Many of those crimes in apartment complexes like the ones along St. Andrews Drive or George Anderson. Many of the cars unlocked.
Last month, 89% of the cars that were broken into were unsecured.
Police say these are crimes of opportunity. Someone can go around a parking lot checking doors until they find one that opens and then take whatever they want from inside.
iPods, cameras, cell phones, money.
Lieutenant Blanton says the easiest thing to do is simply lock your doors. Take your belongings with you or hide them so they're not visible to thieves. And if you see someone suspicious near your home, call 911.
The whole bottom line is make it hard for anybody to make you a victim. Help us police you by policing yourselves.
When I spoke to Lieutenant Blanton this evening, he said he's going to be heading to a lot of those apartment complexes that have gotten hit and talk to the residents as well as put up these flyers. He's hoping the more that people are aware of the problem, the more they'll be able to protect themselves. Reporting live in the studio, Claire Sims, WECT News.
This is WECT News at 11.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm Frances Weller.
And I'm John Evans. Hundreds of thousands of dollars go from criminals' pockets to law enforcement agencies every year as part of the Federal Asset Forfeiture Program.
The government can seize the cash, cars, and possessions drug dealers and other criminals gain through illegal activity. There are dozens of rules on how law enforcement can then spend that money. But tonight, WECT's Claire Sims investigates those investigating agencies, and she found not all appear to be following the rules. Claire?
Well, Fran, the agencies we looked into all use their money to help bridge the gaps they find in their budgets. But in New Hanover County, the Sheriff's Office is also helping supplement other people's budgets, too. Cars, computers, helicopters.
Well, I think Sable clearly would not be flying had not been drug seizure money.
The money you see laid out on tables after a drug bust is helping law enforcement officers crack down on dealers. Since 1984, police and sheriff's offices have been allowed to seize criminals' assets. That hits crooks right in the wallet and gives a financial boost to the men in blue.
It has really been a lifesaver for us because, you know, things are tough.
That money has come in handy as government slashed budgets across the board. Last year, Brunswick County Manager Marty Lawing asked the sheriff's office to cut back.
It was bad, and you know, he said, "Look, guys, can we come to a happy medium somewhere?" So we cut the cars in half to try to help save jobs, to try to keep the county employees employed, and you know, we're going to be team players. But in return, we used some drug funds last year to purchase some vehicles that were cut from the budget.
Records show Brunswick County is also using that money to pay for its substations in Leland and Calabash, covering the phone lines, the office supplies, even the copy machines.
Those substations are not costing the taxpayers one penny.
But the line items are not a carbon copy in New Hanover County.
Sheriff McMahon believes in giving back to the community.
Under federal guidelines, a department can give up to 15% of its drug seizure money to community-based programs, nonprofits that are in line with the law enforcement effort. Since Sheriff Ed McMahon took office in July 2009, he shared money with Union Missionary Baptist Church, the Boy Scouts, and Hoggart High School.
It's a very small portion. The amounts since Sheriff McMahon has taken over have, I would say the average is $500 that we might give to this program or this program. Some of them are a little bit more.
One of those getting a bit more, the Yahweh Center, a Christian-based home for abused and at-risk children in Wilmington. The Sheriff's Office donated $2,750 to them last fiscal year. If the amount doesn't stick out, the payroll might.
Yes, the sheriff has a family member who works there. However, that's the reason we have the checks and balances.
Sheriff's Office employees point out that Sheriff Sid Causey also donated money to the Yahweh Center before McMahon took over. But federal guidelines state any use that creates the appearance that shared funds are being used for political or personal purposes is not permitted. Those guidelines also spell out that law enforcement cannot give cash donations to community groups. Instead, the Sheriff's Office has to buy supplies for them directly or reimburse the nonprofit for approved expenses. Chief Deputy Smith says the money the Sheriff's Office gave to Yahweh was for specific purchases, but at least one check the department wrote was not, a $500 donation given to the center during a volleyball tournament this spring. The Yahweh Center gave the Sheriff's Office a trophy for donating the most money out of all of the participants. Meanwhile, just across the court, McMahon told us he had concerns about the county's request for him to cut his budget.
I do understand the seriousness of the shortfall of the budget, and so I am going to reevaluate, aggressively look at my budget again. But I cannot sacrifice the service, the quality of service to the citizens, or the safety of the citizens.
WECT tried to set up an interview with Sheriff McMahon for weeks to get his side of the story. We agreed to sit down with him last Monday, but when we arrived at his office, employees told us he was in a meeting and would not be available to answer our questions.
I would just ask that you make sure that the audience gets a fair and balanced view that this is allowed.
As for those checks and balances, Chief Deputy Rhonda Smith admits they are internal. No one outside the New Hanover County Sheriff's Office approves donations or expenditures from the drug fund before they make them. But inside the city limits, the check is an elected city council.
There's a checks and balance in the system, because if not, you could have potential for abuse of people using money for things that just shouldn't be using drug seizure monies for.
The police department has spent about $40,000 on uniforms, another $10,000 on the text-to-tip program. Chief Evangelist says he's very careful about where the money goes.
We don't want to become reliant on it, because you never know from year to year what may or may not be there.
It could be gone tomorrow. But if we have it, we're going to use it, and we're going to use it to the benefit of the department and to the taxpayer.
A benefit like cars, computers, and helicopters, just not donations. We asked Chief Deputy Rhonda Smith how the Sheriff's Office chooses which organizations they help. She says the nonprofits apply for aid. But when we asked her how those groups know that there's money available, she told us they get enough requests from several organizations, and she feels like the community knows about the money. I've tried repeatedly to talk to Yahweh Center Director Carla Roberts to ask her how she found out about the money and if Sheriff McMahon's relative working with the organization had any impact. So far, she has not returned any of my calls or emails. Reporting live in the studio, Claire Sims, WECT News.
Now, we have much more about this story on our website, including documents that break down how much the Sheriff's Office spent in drug money. You can find that by clicking on this story on our homepage.
Campaign sign. Election season is getting heated as signs pop up with a different message. Plus, party line, why an IV for a house guest is now at the center of a criminal investigation. And it's time to roll up your sleeves. Who should get the flu shot? We'll let you know. WECT News at 5 starts right now.
Now in high definition, where news comes first. This is WECT News at 5.
Hello and thanks for joining us. I'm Claire Sims. Francis Weller has the night off. Treading water. A week after the rain stopped, Pender County is still seeing flooding in some areas today. Officials have toured the waterlogged area, but today they took their work inside. WECT's Lindsay Curtin reports the damage could be bad enough to warrant federal aid.
For the past week and a half, the Pender County Emergency Management Team pulled out those heavy-duty vehicles to drive through the floods, assess the situation, and figure out what they needed to do next. In Pender County, I'm Lindsay Curtin, WECT News.
Days after the torrential rains ended last week, the water wasn't going anywhere. This is what part of Highway 53 East looked like in Pender County. Good news tonight, though, that road is now reopened. While people with FEMA are in the area checking out damaged homes, crews with the Department of Transportation have been busy this week repairing potholes the water carved into local roads. Despite the massive flooding, DOT officials in New Hanover County say there are not as many potholes as they were expecting. Although it didn't flood too much in Columbus County, workers there are also busy fixing pavement.
If you have washing of the fill material on the slopes, it undermines the pavement and you can lose pavement that way. Also, if you have water up on top of the pavement, either through extended rainfall or flooding situations, it can get down into the base material up underneath the asphalt, and then you can have that break apart and you lose asphalt that way as well.
Officials with the DOT say they want to fill the holes before it gets colder because more potholes appear in the winter. Some candidates running for office say it's dirty politics. People are defacing campaign signs, even removing them in some areas. WECT's John Evans is live in our newsroom tonight with more. John?
Well, Claire, we got some emails from candidates today. Ilario Pantano, who is running for Congress, Tristan Patterson, who is running for a seat in the State House. So there are some consequences. It's not through the election law, but it could be through local law enforcement. We're live in the newsroom. John Evans, WECT News.
Congressional candidate Ilario Pantano brought a new campaign issue to the forefront today. Speaking to a handful of supporters at the Republican headquarters in Wilmington, Pantano laid out his plan for coastal conservation. One of the main points, Illinois has received millions of dollars more for storm protection than North Carolina. He says the issue is bigger than dollars and cents.
It's more than protecting tourism dollars. It's more than ensuring that we have a wonderful, pristine coastline so folks want to come and do development here. It's about protecting and saving lives.
Pantano said he wants to move away from funding on a year-to-year basis. Instead, he wants to secure a revenue stream for long-range plans and development. We should also point out that in a news release today, Congressman Mike McIntyre stated he's secured nearly $300 million over the past 14 years for projects at our area beaches. You can find out more about where the candidates stand in the Decision 2010 section of our website. We have exclusive interviews with people vying for your votes and county-by-county ballot information. Just click on the Decision 2010 tab at the top of our homepage. That's WECT.com. It's not a political party, but a house party in Oak Island that is causing some controversy. In a story you'll see only on WECT, WECT's Christy Etheridge joins us live in the studio with a detail on a party foul that's now the subject of a criminal investigation. Christy?
Yeah, Claire, live in the studio, I'm Christy Etheridge for WECT News at 5.
A man ditches his car and his girlfriend after a wreck this morning in Wilmington. It happened around 2:30 in the area of College and Gordon Roads. When troopers arrived, they say the driver, Christopher Scott Wales, hit another car and then went into a ditch. While he pulled his girlfriend out of the car, he took off running without her. No one was hurt in that crash. New details on a morning fire that damaged a home in Wilmington. Fire officials say the blaze that started at a home on South 7th Street was accidental. Firefighters say it started on the second floor. A woman smelled smoke around 8 a.m. and went to check it out. That's when she discovered the fire in an empty bedroom. The woman and her daughter are now staying with relatives. Nobody injured in that fire. Well, it certainly feels like fall out there, but we are going to see some warmer temperatures. Let's check in with First Alert meteorologist Rob Ellis. Rob?
Yeah, we're already.
Thanks, Rob. Looks nice. Researchers are making some noise. Why a loud workplace could do more than hurt your ears. And a decade of deployments. A look inside